Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur with your host, Steve Kidd, third-generation minister and 30-year business coach. Listen in as amazing, world-changing authors, speakers, and coaches share their struggles and victories. And hear from best-selling authors' insight into how you too can live your life as a thriving entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur. Thanks for being with me here today. I'm so grateful for you. I love having you around, spending time with you, and really seeing how we can maximize today and make the world a better place so that we can each of us live as thriving entrepreneurs. Today, we want to talk about discovering and sharing. What are the things that are in us, and how can we first discover it and then share it with the world? We all really need to go through that process where we're discovering constantly things about ourselves that are unique, they're brilliant, they're powerful, and then sharing them with the world. Most of the time, here's what you're going to find. The very thing that you were struggling with, the very thing that you had to overcome, the very thing that maybe makes you even feel odd or weird in life, that becomes the strength. That is the uniquely brilliant, discoverable material within inside of you that needs to be shared with the world. It's so weird and yet so awesome, because the truth of the matter is that we tend to take who we really are in this world and totally discount it and treat ourselves as not good enough because of something somebody else has said or thoughts that have come into our own head about the weirdness that is us, the unusualness that is us. And yet, as we go through the discovery process of that, and then after we begin to embrace it and then share it with the world, it really is 3 steps. It's really discovering, embracing, and then sharing it, because we have to realize you are uniquely brilliant, you are awesome, you are amazing, and you are a thriving entrepreneur. I have 3 great, amazing guests. If you listen, you're going to hear the connective tissue of them discovering and sharing who they are. And you're going to be more powerful by learning from them the things that they discounted and even demeaned themselves over, or the things that they didn't know better until they finally just embraced that thing about themselves, and how powerful it has allowed them to now show up in the world, and how much it allows them to be a thriving entrepreneur. With that said, we're going to jump right in to our first guest.
Join me in welcoming Sam Mitchell. Hey, Sam, how you doing today?
Hey, thanks for having me on your radio show, buddy. I know we met at that connection networking with Jenny Bellinger, and I just thought we would hit it off. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy it worked out.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you here, and I'm looking forward to being able to get to know you. So start off, tell us just a little bit about who you are and how you show up in the world.
All right. So hello, everyone. My name is Sam Mitchell, and I run the podcast called Autism Rocks and Rolls. And it is about autism and how we cope with daily struggles that you may or may not understand. I ran it since October 2019. I've had big guests on the show, such as Temple Grandin and Mick Foley, and I'm a thriving entrepreneur because it went from a hobby to a business very unexpectedly. Because through the business and the nonprofit, I have a board of 5, get to be a vendor for certain places. I have sponsors, and I offer speaking engagements. I have done some in Oklahoma, Orlando, and Canada, as well as some Indiana schools of mine, but I got some more booked, a couple in the Indiana area again, and one coming up this month in Washington, D.C.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit, give us a little taste of what you talk about in your talks.
I talk about autism, but it changes a lot, but it's still autism. That's the basis, but it's about the autism spectrum, and some event where I share my story. Then also sometimes I have to change it up where I align with the other place's mission.
Perfect. Explain to people who maybe they don't understand what autism is and how the spectrum, what that means.
Autism spectrum disorder, ASD, there's two definitions. I have my own view, and then there's society's view. Society's view is a neurological condition disorder that where you basically show with social cues and basic life skills. My view is just a different way of thinking.
Okay. And what kind of things do you find that you just really excel at that other people struggle with?
I would say creativity.
Give us an
Creativity is
example.
one of the
Yeah.
aspects.
Give us an example of some of the things that you like to do creatively.
Well, I like to write. Definitely a creative writer. I like to come up with stories. And this podcast episode is definitely another idea because I definitely like to go out of the box sometimes and compare stuff to autism. Like my out of box examples are with this podcast is I compare Scooby Doo to autism, and I compared Red Dead Redemption, which is a video game, to autism.
Oh, I do need to hear the comparison of Scooby Doo to autism. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So one of my hobbies is Scooby Doo. I mean, just helped me a lot, and there's a lot of aspects of Scooby Doo that resemble autism, and just a lot of life lessons you can learn. One lesson is, if you notice, Scooby Doo has kind of a speech impediment. You can't say merely really well. Like you got the muh. Instead, it's like rarely. So you kind of hear the speech impediment there, but his friends still love him, and he loves them back. They took him in when they didn't have to. So I think that's one lesson you can learn. But and there's a lot of character aspects that represent autism. I think Shaggy sometimes tries to make jokes when it's not the appropriate time, and that's what I do, and others on the spectrum do as well.
I love that. So, what is the thing that people do, the way they treat you, or things like that, that you wish um, they didn't? I mean, they don't understand, and so they don't know what to do. But what is one of the kind of typical things people do to you that you wish they wouldn't?
They show us pity. I think that when you hear the word autism, they think, oh, he's not going to function in society, he can't make it, and he won't be able to do anything other than live in his parents' basement. That might be true to a point, but it's not all the time. They may have to live in the basement of their parents' house, but they can still go out and do something. If that's just getting the mail every day or getting a job, it's something, and that's a big problem because 75% of the spectrum do not have jobs because the boss is afraid or the employees afraid.
I love that. Um, So give us some insight. What is something today or over the course of this last week that you've come up with that is just something that you've discovered that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I mean, something that's happened this week that I can think of is yes, on Wednesday I had a lot of podcasts to be on, so that's kind of exciting.
I love that. And have you written any? I mean, I know you've done a lot of writing. Have you published any of those books yet?
Well, it's not books for me; it's mainly a blog. But now you're saying that we're on the topic of it, I can promote the new book that my editor slash manager slash mother kind of wrote herself called Journey. It's about a little girl who was, well, it's not about really a little girl. It's about a girl who is now a park ranger and is trying to tour children about the world of the nature, but she's having flashbacks of her childhood. And I can also mention that I had done a TED talk about structure and why autistic people need structure.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about structure and why structure helps you.
Structure helps me a lot because it gives me an idea and I know what to expect, which I think is a lot easier sometimes than not knowing what to expect. And I'm pretty much of a laid back person, but if it's something that's very important to me or is very tedious, I need structure.
What do you deal with when you're just in those times where things are all chaotic and the structure seems to be totally out the window?
Frustration is the answer I can give you because I think sometimes the frustration builds and it builds and it builds to where we just become bitter and angry. And I just wanted to go the ducks in a row, but the ducks aren't going in the pond.
That makes a lot of sense. So, off of your website and the other things that you do, what kind of services do you offer to people?
Well, I offer sponsorship. That's the one that's a big hit. I offer podcast coaching, podcast editing sessions, teaching. I don't mind doing that if you're interested. What else do I offer? It's pretty big. Speaking engagements. I've gone to Canada to speak, so I'm pretty much open to travel anywhere if you pay me right. It may have to be virtually in some situations, but I'm pretty open to do it if I get the money and if it's the right amount. Now, I
Sure.
will say though, before you go on, sometimes I do waive the speaking gig if I think it's important and something will come out of it.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, absolutely. So if a person wanted to book you, do you have a website, or how would they contact you?
You can, if you want to book, contact us at info@autismrocksandrolls.com. That's the best email to use, and we use that a lot. We check that more often, and we could probably talk about it and schedule and discuss a price and discuss the basis and the plan.
And your website is autismrocksandrolls.com, right?
Yep, and make sure you spell the "and" too.
Yeah, good to know. So it's the word "and" typed out. All
Yep.
right. So I mean, you're such a cool individual and you do so many cool things in this world. I wonder if you could just take the next couple of minutes, 3, 4 minutes, whatever, and just give us all some words of encouragement.
Well, I mean, I think that if you're listening to this right now, and you have a passion, you want to turn to a big business, go for it. I did with a podcast, and little did I know, I'm now traveling to Canada to do some speaking engagements. So if you're gonna have an idea, you want to start it, start it. Because I can think of tons of business ideas I love to start right now, and I thought about it before actually doing them.
Now, I know you run into people all the time that want to try to give you all the reasons why they can't do it. Address that for people. Tell them all the reasons why they can, and why you found that you can do it.
Well, I mean, if you heard the phrase "the proof is in the pudding," or it goes something like that.
Yes.
Okay, that's my answer right there. The proof is in the pudding. I definitely have made a podcast with 13K downloads. Don't believe me? Check it. Now, I take to kind of be arrogant here and kind of brag, and this is just me being truthful, my resume speaks for itself, if you think about it. The episodes speak for itself. The speaking engagements you can ask to the other people where I spoke, it speaks for itself. And yeah, I'll admit it. I have some anxiety issues and all the, not speaking engagement nerves, but definitely have my plans of coping with that. So I would say, if you don't believe me, check out the work I do. If you don't like it, don't. I don't agree with you, obviously, but whatever. That's just who you are. But at least give it a chance.
What great advice. You can always try something and fail at it, but if you don't try, then you absolutely can't succeed at it.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about entrepreneurs, sometimes their ideas that they thought was good just fails down the toilet. But then what else they can do? The next idea they have, oh my gosh, it might make them $1 million.
I love that. So Sam, you did say that right now your mom's your manager, and although you live there, talk to us about some of the things that you do that, you're totally independent, and just kind of explain what your life is like to us on a regular basis.
Well, I mean, I definitely can do some of the basic life skills that others probably can't do, like brushing your teeth and all that. But the podcast part, what you see, the editing and what you're hearing through the episodes, that's all me. That's independently. I set my own recording schedule. I publish on my own. It's all me with the podcast. But the nonprofit, that's her. Like the speaking engagements, the events, that's all her. Now I come up with ideas, obviously, but as far as the planning it goes, that's her. Because if I plan it, I become way too controlling and bossy.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you and your mom are a great team, and together you're really doing some amazing things to change the world.
Well, we both see a need for it, and I think there are some days we work well. Then, as you know, sometimes child and parents clash. So there are other days we clash like rhinos, but for the most days we do pretty well.
Well, that's good. And give us your URL, your website one more time before you go.
AutismRocksandRolls.com.
Well, Sam, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for being a guest on the show here today.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
So often we take things and we label them as something less than, when in point of fact, awesome and powerful stuff often come out of that thing that the world wants to tell us is not good enough. And when you discover that uniqueness of yourself and you begin to share it with the world, you make the world a better place, and you are living as a thriving entrepreneur. Let's take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back here on Thriving Entrepreneur. Don't go away.
If you're an author who's on a mission, stand out with your brand out. Check this out, guys. Yep, everything's marketing, and marketing is everything. Your existing book can become a best-selling book, or even, hey, like mine, a #1 international best-selling book in 5 days. Listen, if your business isn't known by everybody, it's obscurity, and that's death, right? The same thing is true for your book. If you're not happy with the way your book is performing, you got that far and then it just fell off the face of the planet kind of feeling, go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Schedule a talk with Steve. It's risk-free, it's guaranteed, it's proven. We've done it thousands of times. What are you waiting for? Yes, yourbestsellertoday.com. This time next week, you could have a beautiful seal on your book and get the attention that you deserve. Reach the people that you came to serve. Come on now. What are you waiting for? Grab a pen. Here we go. All you got to do is book a call, yourbestsellertoday.com. Go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Book a talk with Steve. It's proven, it's guaranteed, it's gonna happen. All you have to do is say yes to your destiny.
Welcome back to Thriving Entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome back. Today we're talking about discovering and sharing, to looking inside of ourselves and discovering just how uniquely brilliant and powerful we are, and then sharing that thing that we've learned, that person that we are, that uniqueness of ourselves out with the world. We had a great first guest who was able to turn his autism into something that now is changing the world, and probably even gave you some really great tips in your life. And we're not done yet. We've got another great guest that is going to show you some powerful ways to show up as the unique person you are in this world and live as a thriving entrepreneur. With that said, let's jump in to our next guest.
Join me in welcoming Anjel Hartwell. Hey, Anjel, how you doing today?
I am so delighted to be here, Steve. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Excited to have a conversation with you and talk more about what you do in the world. So with that, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Well, I am the executive producer and host of the #1 internationally ranked and 8-time award-winning Wickedly Smart Women podcast. And I am also known as the Wealthy Life Mentor. And I work with people all over the world as a consultant, helping them with their business and monetization and communication strategies when they get called to step into the thought leadership role.
I love that. Wickedly Smart Women. Tell us a little bit about your podcast and some of the things you do there.
Beautiful. Well, I have been podcasting actually since 2018, and my first podcast was called Men on Purpose. And I actually sold that one in 2020 after I had started Wickedly Smart Women in the fall of 2019. And it became clear that having two simultaneously at that point in my journey was a little more than I needed to be doing. So Wickedly Smart Women started back in 2019. And when we started, the show went to #1 internationally ranked, like really quickly. We actually, the first day we were ranking in the charts that we launched. And we're now downloading in 107 countries around the world. We've got over 200 episodes. We have women from every single walk of life that are featured on the show. And the whole purpose for Wickedly Smart Women is really to elevate, celebrate, and spotlight wickedly smart women who are just really inspirational and motivational and doing big things in the world and creating financial rewards for themselves, as well as making an impact.
That is so cool. I love that. So I've heard it said, and you can tell me it's totally wrong, and that's why I'm asking you. I've heard it said that the only reason why women don't rule the world is because, for the most part, women can't get along with women. What do you have to say about that?
Wow. Well, I will have to say, Steve, that I definitely had that experience myself. I felt that way for a long time. And a lot of times I think that women don't get along with women because we're culturally programmed to compete with one another. We're culturally and societally, kind of trained and conditioned to be in opposition to one another. And one of the biggest things that this show for me has done is it's actually allowed me to break down my own defenses. It's allowed me to really begin to appreciate and celebrate and acknowledge that everyone has value. It's not just, that I'm not the only one that has value. Other women have value, and we all have value that we can offer from a different lens. And so the show for me has been not only really a wonderful celebration of women in general, but a healing for me in my own personal cultural conditioning to be against other women or feel like other women were against me. So I don't think you're being too far off, Steve. I think it is something that exists, and I think that it's something that can be transcended, especially when we're intentional about kind of bridging those divides.
I agree completely. Now, set up. I'm gonna still ask it because this was
Up, Steve, you got a little broken up there.
okay now.
No, I can't. Let's try again.
All right.
Nope, you're all broken up. That's weird. Why are you all broken up?
Is that
there you
okay.
are. Much
all
better.
Right. Okay. All right. I did have this question prepared for you, and with what you said, it may be a little bit of overlap, but I still want to cover the concept with you. There is a book written by Anne Rice in the Vampire Chronicles series, actually, and there's a character in there called Akasha. She's the queen of all the vampires in the whole world, and she, after spending thousands of years listening to the world, decides that the problem in the world is men. And her plan is to basically get rid of all men except for a few to propagate the species. But other than that if we just get rid of all the men, things will be fine. So as the other side of the coin of women not liking women, what do you have to say about the problems that men create in the world for women?
Oh, Steve, I love this question for so many reasons. How did you know that I was like a rabid Anne Rice reader?
We're just like-minded.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read any of her work in at least 20 years, but I was definitely a rabid Anne Rice reader back in the day when the Vampire Chronicles were coming out. So the problem is that we keep looking for problems, I think, Steve. And I mentioned before that my first podcast I sold in 2020. Well, that podcast was called Men on Purpose. And when I started that podcast, again, the intention for that show was to elevate, celebrate, and spotlight men, because I realized right around the time that I launched that show that I had spent my entire life in relationship with men who were either abusive, addicted, or that I felt alienated from. And in doing that show, the 163 episodes of that show that I did, that too was a healing process for me, because when I looked at my life, from my father to boyfriends, husbands, and even to my own son, like I'm the mother of a man, right? So even to my own son, my relationship with all of them was riddled with this, either abuse or addiction or me feeling alienated from them. And I realized that I was the single unifying thread in all of that. And so it was my job and it was my healing to go look for and purposefully refocus my attention and my intention on finding men that I could celebrate. So, Akasha, maybe we need to have her on Wickedly Smart Women and help her to adjust her focus and maybe create more unity in the world for all of us, right?
I would totally destroy the end of that book if I commented any further. So, but yeah, I love it. So, Wickedly Smart Women, what are some of the things that you yourself personally have learned, interviewing and being with these incredible women?
Yeah, I think I want to talk about especially the women who went very far in their careers, those women who literally pioneered the whole breaking through the glass ceiling thing. I've had women on the show who, I had one woman on the show who was actually part of the whole Playboy empire. Her company, she brokered the deal between a company that she worked with and Playboy, and they got taken over by Playboy. And she was just so self-assured and clear and powerful and inspiring. It was just so inspiring. And these women who have not only, elevated themselves to the C-suites of some of the largest companies in the world, but I also love the women who have, pioneered in other spaces. Like I have one guest who was on the show who became a client of mine, who's an African-American woman, and she wrote the book Expect Effing More, for African-American women, to teach them how to do business. And so there's just been such a variety of women on the show. There's been artists. There has been, I had one woman on the show who actually was part of our collaborative book. We did a collaborative book this year, and her name is Lindley. Lindley is an actuarial person. Like she does all this like high math. and so there's women who went into careers that were predominantly male dominated industries. Those for me are really, really inspiring. But I'm also super inspired by the women who are deeply feminine and creative and really sunk into their artistry and bringing beauty into the world as well. So it's just been a beautiful journey with all of these women, and to be able to learn from them, receive from them, and celebrate them has been my honor.
I'm going to call out to one more type of woman who sometimes gets overlooked, but maybe the hardest working woman in the world, and that's the moms. Oh,
yeah,
my
baby.
goodness.
Yeah, we definitely want to shout out to the moms. I mean, when I got started in the personal and professional development space, Steve, I was a single mom going into my I was married to my second husband, but I was going into my second divorce, and I built my whole business really around being able to serve my purpose, because I was called to speak and to lead and to mentor women and men around the world. I had this huge calling, and I knew I wasn't going to fulfill the calling by going to a rubber chicken luncheon at the local Chamber of Commerce. Like that wasn't what I was called to do. I was called to like really serve at a global level, but I was also called to be the parent who was there for my child. And so thank God for technology, because I was able to create a multi-million-dollar business from home, mostly in my pajamas or my yoga pants. Today, I've got my yoga pants on, Steve. and simultaneously be the mom who baked all the brownies for the football team and was at every single game. And my house was the house where all the kids could gather. And I always knew where my kid was because all the kids were at my house.
Perfect. I love it. I love being able to change the world in your jammies.
Exactly
There's just
right.
nothing cooler than that.
Exactly
So
right.
let's look at it from the other standpoint. Is there one or a couple of universal things that you see that women either are still struggling with or had to come through in order for them to become the truly wickedly smart woman that they always were?
Well, I think universally for women, there are two main things that I would say I've seen repeatedly have been a challenge. One is, and they're kind of interconnected with one another. One is self-worth, and the other is their relationship with wealth, with money, right? Women consistently discount themselves, consistently do not understand the value that they bring, consistently ignore the kind of intangible or invisible emotional, mental, physical, spiritual support that they are constantly delivering into the world. It's like trying to tell a fish that they're in water. And then simultaneously this self-worth thing and deservedness, like deserving to have their dreams, have their visions, have their goals be compensated for. And so a lot of times what I see women doing is over giving and under receiving, and they kind of are tied together. A little bit more on the money side of things, a lot of women just don't want to have anything to do with thinking about money. And it's part of our world, like, like Madonna sang in the song, we're a material girl living in a material world, and so it is part of our world. And so I think it's really important, and I do a lot of work with my clients on helping them to understand that it's not rocket science to make connection with money, to appreciate money, to learn how to leverage, manage, and grow your money, and to really utilize your money to fund and grow that which is of highest value to you. And I think if more women were able to feel confident in that area, I think we'd see a lot of changes in the world that would be really super positive changes.
Mm. Speaking of super positive changes, what is something that the women that are listening today could do right now today that could begin to help impact them in the world?
Well, I think the first thing that I would say, and I say this when I teach about speaking, like and I'll say this is like, if you were coming to be a guest on my show, or if you're out in the world, you need to be able to speak what you want, right? And so one of the things I like to share with my clients, the top 3 things you got to concentrate on when you only have a minute at the mic. Number 1 is certainty. Like, you have a right to be here and you have a right to be heard. So if there is one thing that I could say to the women who are listening, you have the right to be here, and you have the right to be heard, and you have the right to have your dreams and visions fully funded and fully manifesting in the world. And it begins with you getting clear and giving yourself permission and allowing and acknowledging your essential nature underneath all of the conditioning, all of the societal expectations, all of the religious and educational, programming that we've received, advertising programming, all of that stuff. That at the core of who you are a worthy being, and you have a right to be here. You have a right to be heard.
I love that so much. That is so powerful because I think a lot of us spend so much time in our mind giving ourselves all the excuses for why we shouldn't, that there's not a whole lot of space left for anybody else to come in and talk negative to us.
Exactly. And so if we just put the volume down on the negative, the inner critic, the negative Nelly, if we just turn the volume down to half on the negative Nelly and brought in, Penelope positivity in our own heads, huge amounts of changes can happen internally and then as an extension externally. So yeah, turn down the volume on negative Nelly and turn up the volume on positive Penelope.
Love that. Absolutely. So for people that want to listen to the podcast, how can they listen to your podcast?
Yeah, so they can go to wickedlysmartwomen.com. All the, episodes are there. We'd love to have you go ahead also and check out our book, Wickedly Smart Women, Trusting Intuition, Taking Action and Transforming Worlds. There's a link for that on the site. The show is an 8-time award-winning show, so we'd also love it if you'd give us some, love on the ratings and reviews. If you are downloading on Apple, we appreciate that as well. And I have a little something for your listeners if they're interested. Steve, I would happily invite them to take my quiz. I have a quiz called the Wealthy Life Readiness Quiz, and you can find that at quiz.wealthylifementor.com.
Quiz.wealthylifementor.com.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So tell us a little bit about the kind of people that you work with and how they could go about working with you if they want to dig in deeper with you.
Yeah. So my people are people who are called to a bigger purpose in the world. They are generally speaking in the range of life where they have lots of experience. They're, 20, 30-year people in a particular career, and maybe they're ending their career and they have been called to do something in the thought leadership space. And they really are looking for the kind of support that will allow them to step into becoming a leading visionary in the thought leadership space. And what I do is I help them with the business strategy and the monetization strategy and the communication strategy so that they can jump out of the gate and be successful as swiftly as possible. I love energy efficiency, and I love to help my clients, cut through the BS. There's so much in the marketplace that tells you, oh, do this, do this, do this, and really doesn't give you the fundamentals. So I like to go right back to basics of business fundamentals. Have something amazing to offer it, sell it, and serve the people with that offer and succeed, and go right back to the beginning again and start speaking and offering that again. So those are my people, and I'm excited and really grateful for the time that we've spent together today here, Steve. Thanks so much for having me.
What a powerful, powerful woman that is really making a difference in the world, really getting things done. She discovered the uniqueness, the brilliance, and even the niche that is hers, and now she's sharing it with the world and making the world a better place. She's being the strong, powerful, amazing person she is with the unique and wonderful talent that she is. I know you, like me, got a lot out of that last message. Please now, as we take this commercial break, think about the things that you need to discover in your life and how you can share them with the world. And we'll be right back here on Thriving Entrepreneur.
If you're an author who's on a mission, stand out with your brand out. Check this out, guys. Yep, everything's marketing, and marketing is everything. Your existing book can become a best-selling book, or even, hey, like mine, a #1 international best-selling book in 5 days. Listen, if your business isn't known by everybody, it's obscurity, and that's death, right? The same thing is true for your book. If you're not happy with the way your book is performing, you got that far and then it just fell off the face of the planet, kind of feeling? Go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Schedule a talk with Steve. It's risk-free, it's guaranteed, it's proven. We've done it thousands of times. What are you waiting for? Yes, yourbestsellertoday.com. This time next week, you could have a beautiful seal on your book and get the attention that you deserve. Reach the people that you came to serve. Come on now. What are you waiting for? Grab a pen. Here we go. All you got to do is book a call. Yourbestsellertoday.com. Go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Book a talk with Steve. It's proven. It's guaranteed. It's going to happen. All you have to do is say yes to your destiny.
Welcome back to Thriving Entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today as we talk about the process of discovering and sharing, of being the uniquely brilliant person that you are in the world, sharing that with the world and making the world a better place. All of this, of course, boils down to maximizing while it's called today. You are here right now today. You're listening to this show and you have the opportunity to be able to up-level yourself, to be an even better version of yourself because you discovered who you are and you're now in the process of learning how to share it with the world. I have one more great guest that has a great message they discovered and they're now out sharing with the world that is going to make your world a better place. So with that said, let's jump in to our next guest.
Join me in welcoming Steve Keller. Hey, Steve, how you doing today?
Hey, Steve. Good. How are you?
I am doing great, thanks. Tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Yeah. So I own two businesses. I own two small companies, and I bought both of them. So a little bit of a unique way to do it. And I was a camera guy in sports TV for 10 years. And so kind of found my way into the buying of business world, maybe a little bit differently than some others, but yeah, that's what I went to school for, is the TV stuff. So I was a camera guy in sports TV and had a really great career and loved doing that. But things kind of changed when COVID happened for me because sports shut down globally. And I was quickly trying to figure out how long that was going to be for and what to do next. And that was also at the same time that I found out my wife was pregnant with our twins. So a lot of fun stuff happening amidst a global pandemic. So some decisions kind of had to be made, and it just led me down the path of saying, well, I think now is never been a better time than now for me to buy a business and have something that, bet on myself a little bit again and get off the road, not travel as much. TV had me traveling quite a bit, and with two young kids on the way, thought was kind of the time for the next steps. So ended up buying my first company. It was a really small deal. Owned that for a couple of years. My confidence level grew, and then I thought, why not buy another one? So I bought another one in the same industry, and that one was a much larger deal, and so I had to do the SBA loan route for that, and came with a little bit of a little bit more infrastructure, more revenue, more profit, but also was in a different market than where I live. So that business actually located in a different state than where I live. And so that came with its own, risk and complications and issues, but man, it's been awesome. And so that's kind of where I'm at today, is operating those two companies and all the things that come along with that. And just having a lot of fun learning more and more every day about being an entrepreneur and a business owner, and enjoying the ride.
So it says in here that you have learned a process to mitigate over 90% of your tax liability from the profits of your businesses. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So that is something that I think is not widely talked about. And especially when you're a business owner, taxes are just kind of part of the deal. Well, just in general, as Americans, right? I mean, we make money, we pay taxes, which is the case for pretty much everybody. When you get into business, you start realizing that you're paying a lot of taxes, especially if you got businesses that are profitable and generating income for you and your family. And so I kind of went down the road of saying, well, what are your options, right? You talk to your CPA, you're talking to see like, what things do I need to do to lower my tax burden? For a lot of small businesses, it's one of their biggest expenses. And so through my network and just educating myself on as much as I could on what my options were, I came across a strategy that it just blew me away that it wasn't more mainstream and it wasn't more talked about. It wasn't, and this is a lot of times, why I love talking to people about this thing, about this topic, is because there's other business owners out there. And I know they're listening probably in your audience and other audiences that I talk on other shows with. And they're like, man, how do I, mitigate 90% of the taxes on my profits, my businesses? So it's done through a specialized trust. Using trusts for different things is not anything new, but I just think that this is something that has been done for a really long time, hundreds of years by wealthy families for a really long time. They use trusts to mitigate taxes. And so when I found out about it and realized that it was available and accessible to everyday small business owners, I figured it was going to have, it could potentially have a huge impact for me and my family. So I went down the road and ultimately, I'll just kind of share with you how I have it set up. It's pretty straightforward. Obviously, when you get into the weeds of it a little bit, it can get a little bit more complicated and complex. But from a high level perspective, I have a family trust that I have set up specifically designed by attorneys and CPAs for the purposes that I'm using it for, which one of those main purposes is for tax deferral. And so what I have set up is my trust is a limited partner in both of my businesses. And both of them right now, it's actually a 90% limited member, basically, of an LLC. And so all that means is that at the end of the year, when it comes to be tax time and we have our P&L and my bookkeeper or CPA, says, hey, here's what your taxable liability is going to be. And for those that don't know, like LLCs are just pass-through entities, right? You operate your business out of there, but at the end of the year, the taxable income flows to the personal tax returns of its members, okay? So when I used to be 100% member, well, 100% of that profit would flow to my personal tax return and go on my personal tax return. Well, now I only own 10% of each of my businesses personally. So only 10% of that profit of my businesses flows to me personally. The rest of it, 90%, flows to my trust as a K1, right? As a distributable K1 income, passive income to my trust. And according to the IRS, my trust can elect to defer the taxes on that because it's passive income to the trust, not actively involved in my business. It's really just an investor. So it gives me a lot of opportunities to mitigate the taxes and go, okay, well, now what do I do? Right. So you got money in a trust bank account and you're telling the IRS, hey, I'm going to defer the taxes on this. Well, that's great. Well, now what can you do with that money that's in there? How are you allowed to use it? What is it for? And so, as most trusts are set up, they're set up for the beneficiaries. So my wife and two kids, my twins, Charlie and Cooper, and my wife are beneficiaries. So I'm allowed to, income from the trust can pay for certain things for beneficiaries, such as healthcare expenses, education expenses. So I'm able to utilize those tax deferred dollars to pay for things like my kids' daycare, which I don't know if you have kids in daycare or had kids in daycare, but I have two of them at once in daycare and it ain't cheap. So that's one of those expenses. And so it's, you start, okay, you've got some expenses that you can use that money for. Well, the real strategy came in when I was, kind of introduced to all this. And it was what everybody does is they end up selling all of their personal assets to the trust. And so I no longer own my house personally or my cars personally or any other, anything that I own is now basically been sold. Like all of anything that I have as an asset has been sold to my trust. For a couple of reasons. One, now I don't own it personally. And so I become a much less attractive target for a lawsuit because I don't personally own assets that they can come after. Or my most valuable assets are not owned personally by me. And another reason is now that the trust owns those assets, like my cars and my house, it's required to pay for the expenses related to those assets that it now owns. So I can use those tax deferred dollars to pay for anything related to my house and cars, which, as you can imagine and realize really quickly, is a lot of things, right? Taxes, insurance, mortgage payments, lawn guy, pool guy, cleaners, you name it. Insurance policies and deductibles for insurance claims, cable bill, phone bill, electric bill, water bill, you name it, all your biggest personal expenses now become expenses of the trust. And you're able to, as long as the trust has income, use income from the trust to pay for those expenses. Well, my trust does have income now because 90% of the profits of both of my businesses are passive income to the trust. So that's kind of that's the high level version of the strategy that is legal and according to the laws and rules and that are written in the IRS code. And so I'm just FYI, I'm a business owner. I'm not a CPA or an attorney. So I'm just sharing this information of how I utilize it. And I do consult with people on it because it was an opportunity for me to share with others and people that I know, people who've heard me, be a guest on various podcasts. And so it's just been fun. It's been really fun to have conversations with other business owners because we can chat business owner to business owner and I know what they're going through. I know what it's like to write big checks to the IRS at the end of the year. And there's just legal ways to mitigate that and keep it within your, this ecosystem and build a generational legacy for you and your family. And that's really why I put it in place for all those reasons. So that when I'm gone on to the next thing after I pass on, I'll have something hopefully pretty awesome for my kids to carry on the legacy of, and hopefully their kids are a part of it too. And it continues on.
I love that. So, there's so many steps to that. I mean, I think that really somebody probably needs to hop on a call with you and have you walk them through it or something like that. Is that what you usually do, is help people set this up, or do you have a course for it, or how can people institute that in their own life without having to have to hit rewind 1,000 times on what you just went through for us?
Yeah. So I consult with people on it. I consult for free. I don't have any courses to sell. But I work with the folks who help me set everything up for myself. And basically, I'm whatever you want to call it, not an affiliate or a sales agent, but I'm out there spreading the word of what this is, and I have a really good resource to get it put in place. So I help people understand how this could work for them, and I charge them nothing if they decide to move forward with it, and they decide to work with me and the company that I work with to put it in place. Then I will be compensated by that company. So I try to make it a win-win for everybody. It doesn't cost them anything to chat with me. The easiest thing to do is to set up a call with me. My website, stevekellerconsulting.com, the easiest place to find my calendar and information about how to contact me. If somebody's interested to learn more, to even just see if it's a right fit for them. And I just enjoy talking to people about it. I enjoy trying to find, because everybody's situation is so different, right? Everybody's business is different. Some of them have business partners or multiple businesses, and some of them have different situations with family and the assets that they own. And so there's so many different caveats to it. It's very fascinating to me to find and help people understand how it could work for them and how it can work specifically in their scenario. Because that's the biggest question, right? Like, everybody knows there's going to be a cost to it. Everybody knows that there's stuff that has to happen, but really what people want to know is, like, what am I going to need to do differently? Because it is a different way to operate, right? It's a different form of ownership, as far as I don't personally own as much stuff anymore, and you have to be okay with that. And so it's just different than what people are typically used to. It's different than what we've been taught, right? But the benefits, far outweigh, a little bit of education you're going to have to go through to understand, and in a little bit way that you're going to have to operate differently. Once you start to wrap your head around it, the semantics of how it actually works is very simple, right? Your trust files a tax return. Your trust has an EIN. It's basically like a family business. It has its own bank account, and it's just allowed to pay for certain expenses and things. And as long as you play by those rules, the same way that you play by the rules with your businesses and what your business is allowed to pay for and not pay for, right? So your CPA doesn't yell at you for paying for too many personal things in your business account. It's no different. It just has a little bit different set of rules because it's treated a little bit differently by the IRS. But if you are compliant with the rules that are there, there's really, really big benefits. And I'm all about being compliant. I'm all about playing by the rules that are set forth in the IRS code. But that's things what most people don't understand is the IRS code is there for us to save money on taxes. Like, that's what the code is for, right? It's like, here's all the ways that you can pay less in taxes. So why not utilize that to the best of our abilities? And typically, the uber wealthy have tax teams and lawyers on staff and like all these things that just the average everyday business owner, self-employed person doesn't have access to, right? Doesn't have the financial means to do because it wouldn't make sense. And they just couldn't afford it. But now there's things out there like this that really do make super powerful strategies available to the everyday business owner. And that's what I love talking about. And I love helping people with.
So give us that contact information one last time.
Sure. It's my website, easiest, stevekellerconsulting.com.
Perfect. Well, Steve, that's a really cool strategy, and I really appreciate you sharing it with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I don't know, but you just have to be inspired by that. I'm sure you were too. I don't know about you, but I know I was. Thinking about the concept of mitigating 90% of your tax liability. What a powerful message. What an amazing thing to see, the frustration in his own life, and then be able to take from that and create a methodology, a process. And it really wasn't even that he was creating it. It was more just discovering, how does this thing work, and how can I discover something and then use it for my best, and then share that with the world, not just keep it hidden under a bushel and keep it all to himself and have all of his friends go, how come you don't pay so much in taxes, and just be like, hee, and a lot of times we do that, don't we? We discover something and then we don't share it. I mean, there's two elements to it, and we kind of talked a little bit at the first of the show about the process of discovering and embracing that uniqueness, that wonderfulness that is us, that often is so easy for us that we discount it. We don't even count it as being our thing or who we are or strong or powerful or any of those kind of things. But the other side of the equation is true too. When we do discover that thing, I think we have a responsibility really to share it with the world. I think that's a big piece of, that thing I'm always talking about, maximizing while it's called today, being the best you that you can be while it's called today. My dad used to describe fellowship this way. He said, it's really just one beggar telling another beggar how to find food. And that's always stuck with me. That's so powerful. Because in a lot of ways, that's really just all who any of us are, regardless of your income situation, is you're just a beggar trying to get through the world the best you know how, with the skills and talents that you have, and being soft-hearted and open and willing enough to share with the next beggar you come in contact with, which, by the way, is everyone, so the next person you come in contact with, and share with them the place that you found food or shelter or rest or peace, if only just for today. And if we really emphasize living that way as a society versus all of the me, mine mentality, think what a great world it would be if each of us woke up each day wanting to discover the best of ourselves and then share it with the world. Because you are uniquely brilliant. You were created for a purpose. And the world does need you. And I want to come every week to your eardrums and help you know that you're meant to live every day of your life as a thriving entrepreneur. You're amazing, and you deserve to hear that and know that. Until we're together again next time, I hope that things are blessed for you. You discover and share who you are, and have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today. If you want to get your question answered, send an email to questions@wehelpyouthrive.com. We look forward to you joining us again next time.
If you're an author who's on a mission, stand out with your brand out. Check this out, guys. Yep, everything's marketing, and marketing is everything. Your existing book can become a best-selling book, or even, hey, like mine, a #1 international best-selling book in 5 days. Listen, if your business isn't known by everybody, it's obscurity and that's death, right? The same thing is true for your book. If you're not happy with the way your book is performing, you got that far and then it just fell off the face of the planet kind of feeling, go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Schedule a talk with Steve. It's risk-free, it's guaranteed, it's proven. We've done it thousands of times. What are you waiting for? Yes, yourbestsellertoday.com. This time next week, you could have a beautiful seal on your book and get the attention that you deserve. Reach the people that you came to serve. Come on now. What are you waiting for? Grab a pen. Here we go. All you got to do is book a call. Yourbestsellertoday.com. Go to yourbestsellertoday.com. Book a talk with Steve. It's proven. It's guaranteed. It's going to happen. All you have to do is say yes to your destiny.